Much. Here now is retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg. He served as National Security Advisor to former Vice President Mike Pence. He is now a Fox Business contributor. General, great to see you again. Thank you for being here. I was gobsmacked. I was absolutely astonished by a phrase that the president used to describe the mission. Let me just play the soundbite for anybody who missed it. Roll tape.
The extraordinary success of this mission was due to the incredible skill, bravery, and selfless courage of the United States military and our diplomats and intelligence professionals.
Now, I agree what he said about our military and their bravery, but to call this mission an extraordinary success, this is a mission where you left Americans behind enemy lines, where 13 of our troops were killed, were slaughtered last week, along with more than 100 Afghans, where we left billions of dollars of our best equipment behind. Do you call that an extraordinary success?
Yeah, David, first of all, thanks for having me. Look, I don't know how much time we have to try to unpack this, but I bet we don't have the time to do it. I mean, this is a debacle of historic proportions, and it's all on President Biden. Look, let me just focus in on one thing he said, because it really kind of got my hair up. When he was talking about the agreement, look, that agreement was a condition-based agreement, and I'll make it really simple. If you can pull the agreement up, it's public. On the first page of that agreement, the top third of it, it says that there was going to be intra-Afghan talks by 10 March of this year. If there weren't, the deal was off. And they didn't come to an agreement, so he had no requirement to have a date certain that he created. He moved it once already, and he didn't have to abide by it. He could have created his own agreement. He could have talked to the Taliban, which he did not do. One thing President Trump did, Trump picked up the phone and talked to Mullah Baradar, who was the chief political officer who's now sitting in Kabul, and was very clear to him, not on one occasion, but on two occasions, that if he didn't follow through with the agreement, which the end state was an intra-Afghan agreement and a government between the Ghani government and the Taliban to rule peacefully, then the deal was off, and it was backed by military force.
Yep.
We weren't going to back off from having 2,500 U.S. troops there. So it's all on Joe Biden. For him to make those comments, he is really... Well, I just say he's not being truthful to the American people.
You bit your tongue. I'm interested in knowing what you were biting off, but just because we have so much to cover here, not only did the Taliban renege on their commitments, the president reneged on his to the American people.
Yeah.
Let me just play for you a soundbite of what he said just a few days ago. It was August 18th about leaving Americans behind and how we'd never do that. Roll tape.
Right.
If there's American citizens left, we're going to stay till we get them all out.
Not true. The American forces left before we got Americans out. He said nothing about that today.
Yeah, I not only did not say anything about that after he made that earlier comment, and he made that comment to George Stephanopoulos on ABC News as well. But the other thing he said, remember he said there was a consensus agreement among his commanders and the National Security Council to get out. Now it's unanimous. There's a difference between the two. He's shading the truth, not telling the truth to the American people. This is on Joe Biden. He owns this, and it's a debacle that we're going to have to live with of international proportions, because our allies are looking at this. They know better. Of
course. Absolutely. Now, Americans, I don't know if you saw this poll. This was an ABC poll. 84% of Americans. I mean, as divided a country as we are, I've never seen a majority like that in any kind of poll say that we should not have let our forces go before we got Americans out of there. He's going against the majority, the vast majority of Americans, in order to side with the Taliban rules. I mean, it's just extraordinary, no?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not too sure we can get 84% of Americans to agree that Mother's Day is a good thing. I mean, for Americans to go at 84%, that is a stunning number. And he's basically saying, I know better than you do. Well, there was a plan in place. He just should have followed the plan. He should have listened to everybody. I'm getting a very strong feeling, based on what I've seen with the immigration and this, that the only person he's listening to is himself. And it goes back to what was said about him years ago. He has been wrong on nearly every national security decision in the last 4 decades.
Yeah, that was said by a defense secretary who worked under both Republican and Democrat administrations. All right, finally, on all that we left behind, the treasure of the human beings who went there is the worst loss, of course, but billions and billions of dollars of equipment. Yesterday, the CENTCOM commander was bragging about how they destroyed 27 Humvees in the airport before they left. He neglected to mention that there were 22,000 Humvees that we brought to Afghanistan. That means that we only destroyed 0.12% of all those that were there. Do the Taliban, of course, they can drive a car, but do they have the sophistication, for example, as we look at them surveying helicopters that we left behind, to fix those helicopters and use them?
You know, David, even if they don't, they're going to bring in somebody who does, be them Chinese, be it Russian, contractors. Just because they don't have that capacity doesn't mean they can't bring somebody else to do it. Hey, look, the other thing to remember is the Taliban now has more Black Hawk helicopters than the country of Australia. Go think about that.
Unbelievable. And of course, at least one was used yesterday in a horrific fashion to hang a human being. We don't know the circumstances of that. We don't know who that person was that was hanging from the helicopter. But in one of the typically sick dimension of the way that the Taliban think, or whoever was piloting that helicopter, that's how they used it. What we left behind, God knows how they'll use the rest of it. God knows if they'll have to eventually use it. We'll have to fight these troops to send troops back in to dislodge them once again. General Keith Kellogg, we thank you very much. Good to see you again. Let us now bring